In my 14 years of watching the NBA, I've personally seen guys who were considered some of the best players in the league at one point slowly fade away to the point that we barely even talk about them anymore. Some players that come to mind are guys like AI and Tracy McGrady. Sometimes that's just how things work out. That being said, we're currently going down the same path with some of the guys in the league right now, and one of them is Damian Lillard. So today, we're going to be talking about his career as a whole up to this point, and why he may end up being underappreciated after he retires. Before we begin, if you're new here, I'm d.o.l.l.a. I'm a huge basketball fan and I make videos like this about the NBA here on YouTube every week. So if you're also an NBA fan, or just a basketball fan in general, feel free to hit that sub button and click the bell to be notified when I upload more videos just like this one. Alright, let's get into the video.
Lillard.
When I think about this kid, Damian Lillard, picked 6th overall in the 2012 NBA draft, the word that comes to my mind more than anything is underappreciated. I am not saying that he's a better pure point guard than Chris Paul. I'm not saying he's a better shooter than the greatest shooter that I have ever seen, which is Steph Curry. I am not saying that he is more athletic than a Russell Westbrook. And I understand everybody out there who would pick those guys ahead of him as a point guard because of those superlatives about their excellent skills that I have pointed out. But I need to make sure everybody understands that, you know what, I'm going to give the ultimate compliment to Damian Lillard. He's a bad brother.
Damian Lillard for the last few years has been considered one of the best point guards in the NBA. He's a 5-time All-Star, 4-time All-NBA, and was the Rookie of the Year back in 2013. He's slowly improving every year and has also become one of the best three-point shooters in the league, shooting 38% over his career. In addition, he's also been expanding his range in the last 2 seasons to quote-unquote Curry range, and he's been getting more consistent with these types of shots. This season, he's had 2 60-point games, a 60-point game against the Brooklyn Nets and a 61 against the Golden State Warriors. He also has 2 series-clinching buzzer beaters which nobody else in NBA history can say they've done. And I'll admit, after Steph Curry broke his hand at the start of the season, I found myself watching him way more than usual because he's just that fun to watch. So how will he end up being underrated? Well, the simple fact is that, despite all of this, it hasn't led him to winning anything major yet. At the time of this video, Damian Lillard is already 29 years old in his 8th NBA season. He signed a contract with Portland back in the summer of 2016 for 5 years, $140 million. But last summer signed a 4-year, $196 million extension that's set to take effect in the offseason of 2021. So that would put him at 2025, where he would be 34, turning 35 years old. The problem with this is that he's in Portland. Don't get me wrong, Portland is not a bad team by any means, but they're also not that team that's been competing for a title or even getting out of the Western Conference. The farthest they've made it in the Damian Lillard era is when they made it to a Western Conference Finals last year. And even then, nobody even thought for a moment that they had a realistic chance of beating the Warriors even without Kevin Durant. In his playoff career, he's lost to the Spurs, the Grizzlies, the Warriors again, the 6-seed Pelicans, and the Warriors again. Blazers fans, I am so sorry. So while Portland is a team that's always somewhere in the playoff race, they just simply don't have that X factor that's going to put them over the top to contend for a title in the now even tougher Western Conference. In a conference where one team has LeBron James and Anthony Davis, another team has Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, and Lou Williams, and another team has Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green, and now Andrew Wiggins. They're simply just not seen as a team that can legitimately compete for a title as long as all those guys are together. I salute Damian Lillard's loyalty to the city of Portland, but given how quickly the first 8 years of his career have gone by, it may be no time before we're sitting here talking about a 35-year-old Damian Lillard who still hasn't won anything. And that's a shame to think about. A man consistently averaging over 25 points a game, a man who has 38 career 40-point games, 10 50-point games, and 2 60-point games. The man that got snubbed out of an All-Star selection, then came out of the All-Star break and dropped 51 points on the team that would go on to win 73 games. The man that, in a 10-game stretch earlier this season, was dropping 41.5 points, 5.7 rebounds, and 9.5 assists while shooting 51, 51, 92. It almost doesn't even make sense. But you also have to think about how history gets lost, and most of the time, all people have to look back at your career are highlights and accomplishments. It's not fair, but it is a possibility. That is, if they keep this Portland team together. That being said, I think there are some things that can be done to give him a chance at contending for a title.
So with that being said, Damian Lillard is one of those dudes that's in position to sign one of those big-time max deals this summer. Is it safe to say you ain't thinking about going anywhere else?
Why would I be? I mean, I don't even think it makes sense at this point, especially, like I said, when the relationship with me and the Trailblazers has been what it's been, how I feel about the people that I work with every day, and then that type of opportunity, that type of money. You know, I think it's so many other things you got to take into consideration. Like, I got a kid, I got a family, like I got people that's, you know, not dependent on me, but people whose lives I can change. You know, I can make a difference in the place I grew up. You know, it's a lot of things that can be changed or can be impacted based on, you know, my one decision.
After the 2018 first round in which the Pelicans swept the Blazers, my dad sat there and he told me he believed they had two options. Either trade Lillard or trade McCollum. While I don't exactly think that might be the case, there are some things that can be tweaked with the way that they play that can push them over the top, I believe. To me, the key for both Lillard and McCollum is playing off-ball more frequently. We've already seen McCollum transition to a more off-ball style game at times and still be very effective. However, they don't do this often, which could be leading to issues. We've seen a similar situation to this earlier in the season with Steph Curry and D'Angelo Russell. This ultimately led to the Warriors trading D.o.l.l.a as they knew that once Klay Thompson came back, Curry and D.o.l.l.a's playstyles just simply weren't going to fit well together. McCollum is a great isolation player just like Lillard, but movement off the ball would make them that much more difficult to guard. And while Lillard is one of the best players in the league in the regular season, in the playoffs, the way that he plays, being the primary ball handler a lot of times, is very easy to guard. This is a big thing that led to the Blazers getting swept by the Pelicans. They would double team Lillard to force the ball out of his hands and effectively take him out of the play. This would lead to other guys needing to create for themselves. If he learned how to play off ball more, with his shooting ability, he and the Blazers could be even more deadly on offense. That combined with McCollum's scoring ability would make them a real problem to have to deal with. We've seen this with the Warriors, with Curry and Thompson constantly moving off the ball to cause confusion and miscommunications for the defense, which ultimately makes them harder to guard. Let's be perfectly clear, I'm not comparing the Blazers to the Warriors, but I am saying that Lillard and Curry are similar in that all they need is that split second of daylight to get a shot off, and you have to pick them up at half court. And McCollum and Klay are similar in that they can both create their own shot when needed, and are great scorers. So it would make sense that similar playstyles would produce similar results. That being said, I actually think the Blazers are going to have a real shot at competing with some of the top teams in the West next season if they do make those small adjustments. And that's due to the return of a lot of guys that were injured this season for Portland. A big thing that derailed the Blazers season is the amount of injuries they had to deal with. They've been without Zach Collins for nearly the entire season, who's a valuable big man for their bench. They've been without Rodney Hood, who tore his Achilles in December and was also a key part of their bench last playoffs, and earlier this season. They were without CJ McCollum for a handful of games, of course Damian Lillard, who also missed a handful of games, and last but not least, Jusuf Nurkic, who's been out since March of last year. This may end up being that X factor for them that I was talking about earlier, and he may be that guy that's really going to help them going forward. You have to remember that he was a key part of that Blazers team last year that ended up being third in the Western Conference. The man was a whopping 16 points, 11 rebounds, and in the game he suffered the injury, he had 32 points, 16 rebounds, and 4 blocks, and they were still in the Western Conference Finals without him. Once they all get back and healthy, I believe they're going to be looking at a real shot of competing. And I want that for Dame, because I want to see his hard play go towards something instead of the same second round exit every season. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, subscribe if you're new, and be sure to hit the bell so you can be notified whenever I put out new videos. Leave a like and comment down below some suggestions of what you want to see next, and as always, I'll see you guys in the next one.